Our next chapter covers enumeration, which is the next step in the CEH hacking methodology. Now, enumeration actually gives us a lot more information about a target than scanning does. In some cases, it's the same information, but it goes to a deeper level of detail. But you get a whole lot more information than you would from a typical scan. Enumeration involves getting information about a target that includes information about the operating systems, user accounts that are on the box or the network, the services that are run on the box or the network, the domain itself, and even the network. Now, there's a wide variety of these enumeration techniques and tools available that we can use to get information pretty much on most any operating system and device on the network. Again, some of these techniques and tools are similar to the ones that we use during scanning. Typically, we get more information out of these tools and techniques than we do from a normal scan. Now, like some aspects of scanning, enumeration involves making actual connections to the target or host, or being able to execute commands on the target if you have physical access, or in some cases executing commands through remote access, meaning across the network. Now, some scans obviously do make connections to the host and to the network devices, but enumeration is probably a little bit deeper in that you are actually running commands and utilities, sometimes from the operating system itself, sometimes remotely, or you're using other security programs that can be ran remotely. Now, oftentimes these programs can be run against a target with no credentials required, and often some of the operating systems out there will give you back information. In some cases it's error messages, but in some cases it's just simple information about the target and the services that are running on it. Now, we can use different tools to run enumeration against operating systems and the network and so forth. In some cases, these are multi-purpose tools like Nmap and Nessus, and they can enumerate services to a certain extent, but probably to a lesser degree than some of the other tools that are out there that are specifically made for enumeration. And we're going to talk about some of those tools over the next several sessions. We've actually broken down this chapter into different sections based upon operating system. So we have a segment on Windows enumeration, also one on Linux enumeration, and we're going to talk about network enumeration as well as applications and websites. So we're going to kind of introduce all of this into this chapter. Now, some of the things we're looking for in enumeration that's a little bit different than what we would get through scanning includes a lot more deeper information. If you remember from scanning, we're looking at ports, protocols, services primarily, and in some cases vulnerabilities. Enumeration actually will go deeper, and we want to get things like usernames if possible from the network or from the box, the host. We also are looking at default configurations to see what information we can get back. In some cases, we may get default passwords. And a lot of cases, for example, if you're trying to get to a network device, there might be a default password configured on it that you can get. Some of these enumeration programs will guess and look for default passwords on a box. We're also looking for computer names, domain names, and so forth, even shares. If we know there's a share out there, we could start targeting that share to get information from it, maybe even access the data, depending upon the permissions that are on the share. Obviously, we're looking for Windows information if we're hitting a Windows box, and Linux information, certain information from Linux hosts as well. For network types of services, we're looking at DNS, SMTP, SNMP, and other protocols that run on the network. We're not just looking to see if the service is running, we're looking to see what its configuration is as well. And in some cases, we can get application details from enumerating a host, usually types of banners or types of information that an application may use in its configuration, even default passwords sometimes. Speaking of banners, sometimes we're trying to get those because we want to know the version of the operating system or the application so we can look for vulnerabilities. But in a lot of cases, these banners will also give us other information about the application or service as well. And finally, we also may be looking at routing tables, and that information would tell us what kind of routes are on the networks and what kinds of routes the data needs to take or the traffic needs to take to go beyond the network. So all of this information is very useful to us because it can help us stage a better attack. We're progressing basically from the general to the specific. So we did footprinting, which was very general, and then we did scanning, which was a little bit more specific and targeted a particular network. And now with enumeration, we're going even more specific, and we're looking at particular hosts and devices on the network. So we're going from the general to the specific, and we're still getting information to launch an attack with. So after enumeration, we actually will start launching attacks. But over the next few sessions, we're going to cover the different enumeration techniques and tools that we have out there.